everyone to Mandala Makeup. This channel is different because it takes our differences and embraces them as opportunities for makeup magic. And now that you know a little bit about our channel, to the fun bit. Today we're doing a masquerade ball mask look, and the key is you have to make people think that you're actually wearing one. And some of you may be thinking, how the heck am I supposed to do that? I only have so much facial room. And that leads me to your first step. I want to start off by finding some type of notebook paper that's between cardboard and file paper, that kind of thing. But the key is you don't want to make it too thick or too thin. By cutting them into two angled triangles, because when you have a mask, we all know it comes off the face. So it should be angled right about here, and they should match up with your eyebrows. Once you're done with that step, you're going to set those cutouts aside for later, and we're actually going to start tracing the mask. Now, I suggest you put your hair up in some clips or a ponytail, whatever works for you, just so the hair doesn't get in the way. Now, we all know masks, like masquerade ball masks, they start right about here, and then if you want to use your triangles for shaping, that is totally fine. I suggest if you're beginning, that would be a good point, because you're going to want to start creating little dots as little kind of connect the dot points. So I want my mask to start right about here. So I'm gonna make that dot. And now masks usually go curve on the nose and then curve on the cheeks, going straight up to the triangles or edges of the mask. So I'm going to put tiny little markers where I want to start the bottom of the mask, under that little nose bone, on the nose, in these spots. If you want, you can get your triangle, hold it up right to where it's matching up with the tip of your eyebrow, make a tiny little dot there, and then boom, you have kind of a tracing. All you have left to do as far as tracing is making little designs to kind of make it fun. Now, towards the end, we are going to have some special effects kind of stuff going on the face. So what kind of design you choose to connect all of this doesn't really matter as long as it follows the lines that you want. So. Okay, so once that's all done and traced, I know, you feel weird, I do too, but I promise it's worth it in the end. So your next bit, if you have makeup on, is to remove. I do, so inside the mask is very important because your next step is going to be gluing down your eyebrows, which sounds scary, but I promise it's really not. So whatever makeup remover you have is totally fine. Okay everyone, now we are all ready, cleansed and fresh face. It is time to get down and dirty. So you're gonna need some glue. I suggest like Elmer's. That's like really easy to peel off, really clear. And so then like a really roughed up paintbrush to really get between the brow hairs. Now I have thicker brows, so I may go a little rougher with my brush, but some of you may not. So this technique is gonna be very important for this look to kind of make it seem like there's really a mask over my brows. So if you have a kind of a wand like that, a wand, brush them and get them as straight up as possible, as flat. You don't want to have any hairs overlapping. Now once you have that pretty much done, you're going to go in with this glue brush, get a little bit of that Elmer's glue. You really don't want too much, and you're going to try and avoid the skin because then it does come through the paint. So I'm going to go like that. Now I know this seems scary, but trust me, I've done this many times before, and the glue does come off, and it does not take your eyebrow with it. Here's a little tip if you're somebody like me who has thicker brows, who are kind of stubborn. With this brush, you want to turn it this way, straight up, and just go right through those hairs and really drag them up and take your time. Now if you have thin brows, I don't suggest using as much glue that you don't need, because you really don't want too much glue. Now on to your next step. Remember those little pieces that we set aside? We're bringing them back. So while your eyebrow is dry, and I know I look crazy, bear with me, I promise it's just a very much trust the process, and it's so worth it. Okay, so you're gonna get one of these pieces, and remember you can, before you glue it on, measure, size, and just make sure it all lines. You have that as perfect as you'd like. We're gonna turn it on the inside, and this bit right here, you're gonna go about that, like that is all gonna be glue. And you kind of want to bend it just a little bit. Should look like that when you're done. Very, very thin, but evenly spread. You're just gonna make sure your hair is back. On this bit, since it's wet glue, you can always take it off before it dries and use your 4 fingers. Make sure that's where you want it and just press down on that square bit that you had, meeting up with your tracing lines, and wait till it's done. And I almost forgot, before it dries, before that inside dries, collect a little bit more glue and very lightly kind of just start connecting that piece to your face. Now very lightly, having your strokes go this way, opposite the way it's going, and really try and blend it out, but connect it. Okay, so once you have all of those glued on and even, you're gonna want to start covering up your brows. Now we're gonna add a whole bunch of colors that'll make it disappear, but it doesn't hurt to add a little foundation, cover up, and powder. Taking some Skin Color foundation and a baby beauty blender, I'm just going to lightly go over these brows. Now it's not going to be perfect, but it is going to help with covering it up. A little trick when doing this, go fast, because wherever it is, you don't want it to dry on the top of the glue in blotches, because then it will create texture differences. Now that that bit's done, you're gonna go in with your lightest powder possible. Now I have a very, very white powder, so I'm just going to gunk it up on that beauty blender and just go over it until I can't no more. Now, we can't forget about the eyes. We still have to trace those eye holes. Now that we have the eyebrows done, it can kind of give us a good outline. So I am gonna go directly under this brow to kind of, once again, just really hide the fact that it's not there. So you might want to, you can use whatever design you would like, but again, using the same point, you can just follow the lines of your face. Now under these hideous eye bags, you are just going to go under that, meet up at that point. All right, this is your next step. So because at the end of all of those really gross steps, this is what you should look like. Crazy. So now you're gonna start with the color that won't make it look so crazy. Now I suggest going with some colors that are dark. So I'm going with a blue, black, kind of silvery vibe of a look. And so my first starting color is going to be blue. And that I'm gonna start off with a Juvia's Place palette. Love these. I suggest finding a palette like one of these that is just naturally vibrant, where you can just pack on some color. Start with under my eyes. Now, the key is go a little lower than you plan on packing the color, because you don't want to ruin that sharp eye. So I'm gonna start right here. Now, stamping, dragging, they all should do the trick, but do a good mix of them is my best recommendation. Going on to the part that a lot of people are going to be scared about, the eyebrow. After all that work, it kind of feels like, I don't want to mess with it. But when you apply that foundation and powder, it gives this eyeshadow a base off the glue. So that's kind of why that step was very important, but don't be scared. I promise you, you're still going to get all that color. If you don't look like a deranged superhero that's like on some kids' TV show, you're really not doing it right, and that's just fact. Stamped on and good. We're not worrying about these edge pieces just yet. We're really just focusing on the face, so don't worry about blending on that. Yes, just going into a Morphe palette, I'm going to use this dark black right here, and I'm going to start blending from this bottom up. So again, going in with a very compact brush is always a good choice. You have all that beautiful color on the face, you're going to go in with a brush as such that's kind of just round and fluffy, and something that's just light to blend, because you don't want to pick up as much color. So I suggest starting from the bottom up. While you're blending is definitely just as important as the blending bit, because on your face, eyeshadow is meant for the eyes, not the face. And you know, we have a lot of natural oils on our face that can kind of diminish the eyeshadow, and you don't want that. So you're definitely going to be adding color upon color. Alrighty, so I'm pretty happy with how this base has turned out. Now the next bit is a bit more serious. We're kicking in some of that facial paint. Now I suggest putting your hair back with a hair tie, just to avoid any hair getting in the paint. And if your hands are kind of blue, feeling smurfy, that's pretty good. Going in with the blue first, I'm just going to go ahead and start, and yes, it is much lighter than the color. Now we're gonna kick it in with some black and start mixing and blending. But you just, again, base even if it's paint. Now going in with a mix of black and blue, kind of mix those and start blending from up, down, into your face. Done and painted, and I know they look pretty dark right now, and that's okay. That's what we want, because once these are dried, you can actually put eyeshadow on it, which I'm very excited about. So I'm gonna go in and add some more blue, and then add some more blue, kind of blend it into here, and then we're gonna start with some designs. Hey, I am really happy with how this turned out, and I hope you are too. Now I think it's looking a bit too base-like. We need some fun designs. So I'm gonna be dipping into some white paint, or if any of you don't have any white paint at home, you can use some concealer and just draw up those lines with some makeup remover and then fill them with concealer and add some sparkle, and it does a good old trick. Now, as far as designs, I know that I really want dots and swirls and big characteristics going on to the face. And remember, this kind of design you want to carry on through these bits that will really bring the realisticness. Some dots leading up to some swirls. Oh my gosh, after a very long time, I have finished some designs. Now, this is totally random. There's really not a theme to it. So I say, whatever creativity you have, just let it flow and see where it takes you. So this is what I kind of came up with. And now, before we add some ribbon and some glimmer, we're gonna do some facial shading to really give that pop that it's coming off the face. So I'm gonna be going in with a very neutral palette called The Proof is in the Pudding, and it's one of my personal favorites. So we're gonna be shading under here in the eyes and on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a brush as this, where it's a little bit, you know, it has a little bit more roundness to it and fullness to where I can really get that color. With your shading, really go in there. Now, I feel like a lot of people are going to forget about the forehead up here, but you really don't want to miss this shading up here. Because if you think about it, if you have a shadow up, like the sun is up here, this is the shadow. Now the mask is going to be casting much darker right here, but that means deep in here, you're going to have a much smaller brush as such as this one, where you're really going to get in those crevices with a darker color because of the shadow. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna go in and blend that a bit more, but going in with that brush I was just talking about, I'm gonna go in with Warm Cocoa, and it's a very dark color, and what I'm gonna do is under this eye, very lightly, I'm going to create this shadow type. Like that. Now I'm gonna blend it a bit more and bring it up, but if you can already see the difference between this one, it lifted this bit, and it's very important. Okay, so I am really happy with all of that shading. I think it looks great, and after this very long adventure, we still have more work to do because we need to add ribbon. So as you can see, I've taken a black ribbon, and whatever kind of color works with whatever colors you're using, I suggest going darker because masks are always lined. They're very royal, and they had lots of fun ribbons. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna go in with some more glue and a paintbrush, and I'm going to line just right on that black line that I've drawn, and then I'm just gonna slowly go up. And remember, do not forget this bit. I know it's hard, you just wanna stop there, but you gotta glue on here because that's really what's gonna make it. So I will show you a good quick example. Little tip is, with paintbrushes, the smaller the better. So just line, and if it's clear, it is clear. There we go. Okay, now that's about enough because we really don't want it to, to do it all the way around our face and then half of it dried. Holding and pressing down as we go. There we go, okay. Just pressing that down, and as you can see, it already looks better. Oh my gosh, okay, so it only took me 2 ribbons, thank goodness. Thought it would take me like 3. But as we all know, masquerade ball masks are tied on by the ends. Now, we want the ends sticking out to kind of bring more character to it. But we also have this ribbon, and whatever ribbon you're using at home is totally fine. But I suggest something that's a bit wider than the one you use for your face. Now, we're gonna glue it behind here, behind each of the ends, and we're just gonna let them hang. So I'll be right back. Now that we have the mask for the masquerade ball, we need the makeup under it to make it really believable that we got dressed up. So first we're gonna start off with some natural lashes. Now I suggest using some small ones because remember, we don't want the eyes to steal the show because that's gonna flatten out the look. We really want it to make it look as far back as possible. That's really hard to explain, but I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. So just taking any of these lashes that you have, just quickly gluing and sizing them. Always size check. Now you know we can't go to the ball without some hair and some jewelry to attract perfect suitors. This is the final look. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you really enjoyed this look, and if you were following along, send me pictures in the comments. I would love to see how you did. And as always, I'll see you next time on Mandala Makeup.